Hello everyone, my name is Chelsea Smith. I teach 11th grade English at Alliance Luskin Academy in South LA. So I'm here to present my unit plan today. My unit is titled, Are You Free? Can You Be? And it was designed by me, and the length of the unit is 3 weeks long. So my students and I, we recently wrapped up the semester with a unit on the American Dream. So we've already started talking about the American Dream. What is it? What did it look like in the past? What has it evolved to now? And who has access to said dream? So thinking about that last question, who has access to the American Dream? Who does or does not have access? So now I want to get my students to start thinking about freedom and what freedom truly means. And so I hope to start off the spring semester with this unit. So a brief summary of the unit is this unit is designed to engage students in critical thinking about the meanings and implications of the concept of freedom. Through reading, writing, researching, and reflecting for real purposes, the activities in this unit will guide students toward a deeper understanding of this widely used but very complex idea. Not only will students produce writings to further their own understandings, but they will also write real Amnesty International letters on behalf of unjustly imprisoned global citizens. And they will also team up to create freedom violation posters to address problematic issues in their own school and wider community. The project will prompt multiple ways of looking at freedom from individual, local, and global perspectives. In addition to meaningful reading and writing, students will have the opportunity to practice their speaking skills as well during a whole class freedom forum at the end of the unit. Students will bring together to showcase their learning while being given the chance to speak out in support of the freedom rights they find especially important. And all of my materials are attached on my website. So the overall goals of the unit is students will have learned how to critically analyze perspectives and cultures that differ from their own, examining the challenges and importance of seeing issues such as freedom and human rights, etc., from multiple, potentially conflicting points of view. Students will have learned to critically read texts of different genres, at least 2, selecting individually chosen texts that fit within the academic requirements. And the last goal is students will have learned to draft and finalize professional letters written on behalf of an unjustly imprisoned person identified through Amnesty International. And the Common Core standards are addressed in the unit. I teach 11th grade, so I have the reading standards, the writing standards, and the speaking and listening standards because we will be doing reading, writing, and presentations throughout this unit. The pre-assessment I'm going to do is a Free to Be Me poster, which I'll talk more about in a little bit. The formative assessments are the Amnesty Letter, Socratic Seminar, Freedom Forum, Participation and Presentation, and my summative assessment is a final reflection paper. So there will not be any formal test or quiz. All of their formative assessments will be writing and reading assessments and discussion as well. So some ongoing activities that will be going on throughout the unit, happening on a daily basis over the 3 weeks. So one activity is called the They Said What activity. And what I'm going to do is write a potentially controversial quote related to freedom on the board and have students choose whether or not they agree with it. They must pick a side. Then I'll give them a few minutes to write about their reasoning, followed by a few minutes of sharing with a partner before discussing as a class. And this may lead to some class debates, hopefully, some good debates. Another thing that we will be having going on is a literary circle. And so students will be assigned a list of texts related to freedom, and they'll have to choose one text, and they'll be assigned groups based on the text that they chose. I may choose to switch it up on a weekly basis. Like one week the literacy circle may be everyone who's reading the same text, and then the next week I may switch it up with people who are reading different texts so they can get different viewpoints and perspectives. I'm also going to have them do book reflections on their reading, and they'll do that on a weekly basis, which is basically just their reactions to the reading, their opinions about issues presented, and their predictions about what will happen next. So not really a summary, just more of a reflection. And the last thing that will be ongoing are journal entries, free to write. So students will write these entries every day as the class comes to a close. So it'll be a really short writing assignment, about 5 to 10 minutes. And so they'll be encouraged to write in their journals and make entries outside of class as well. So kind of like a play on the words, free to write. They are literally free to write about anything that they want. It's just encouraging them to write because they have the ability to and the privilege to be able to write. So the way we're going to start off the unit, I'm going to do a launch activity, and basically students will be given some questions to brainstorm. Some of the questions, for example, are what are some of the most important things about you? What is unique about you? And how do those things relate or connect to the idea of freedom or being free? And ultimately, the students will create a poster, artwork, a song, etc., representing who they are and reflecting the freedoms they enjoy and that most define them. So, for example, I might explain that my drawing of a pencil, if I were to draw a pencil, represents my love of writing and my freedom to be able to write. And so then students will share what they created in small groups. And that is the first day. And then the next day we will go into the They Said What activity, which will lead to the class discussion. I will introduce the reading and book reflection assignments and make sure students choose their reading and that they are assigned to their groups and clear on all the requirements for both of those assignments, and they know what is expected of them. So, and then on the next day, we're going to begin the Amnesty International Letter Writing Campaign assignment. So I'm going to invite everyone, if they know anything about the organization. If not, I'm going to introduce what the organization is, and we'll visit the website and browse it. And then I'll discuss the specifics of writing a letter, and we'll do a lesson on formal letter writing. And then students will have the option to go ahead and peruse the website and start thinking and looking at cases and getting some ideas of whose behalf they would like to write on. Then for the remainder of the period, the students will get into their literature circles, and I will have some daily focus questions for them to respond to. So it'll be general questions just based on the theme of freedom, and so therefore it will apply to all of the texts. And so students will also be encouraged to take ownership of their circles, and so just so they can discover and learn from one another, so they don't always have to respond to the questions I have. The idea is for them to just have really rich discussion. And we will wrap up week 1. I'll do a lesson on Socratic seminars, preparing them for a Socratic seminar that will be coming in week 3, and giving them time to do their journal entries and their book reflections, and finishing up in the literature circles by annotating text and doing some reading strategies such as the Same Mean Matter strategy. Then we begin week 2, where we start again with the They Said What quote activity, which we start off each day with and literary circles are twice a week. So starting at the beginning of week 2, we'll do a lesson on the First Amendment, and students will take notes during the PowerPoint presentation. And then they will go into a lesson where they will create and propose their own amendment to be added to the Constitution, and then present. And the class will vote on the one that they like the best, which they believe should be added to the Constitution. The next day, students are going to brainstorm and examine freedoms that are violated in their community. So we recently we touched on this topic already when we spoke about the American dream and some of the significant problems and issues that we see in America today. So this should be a refresher for my students. So in what ways they'll figure out in what ways are their rights to freedom being violated. And then we will begin preparation for the Freedom Forum. And this is basically students will research articles and create short stories or writings about what the world might look like if the rights didn't exist. So they'll find articles on this website, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights website, and present on if those rights were not available to us, what would the world look like? And then throughout the week, I'm going to give them time, make sure they have adequate class time to work on the things that they need to be working on for the Freedom Forum and their journal entries and book reflections and all that good stuff. And they're also still working on their amnesty letters, and they'll bring in a draft and we'll do a lesson on peer edits, and then we'll have some peer reviews to wrap up the week. Then going into week 3, I'm going to introduce the summative assessment, which will be the final reflection assignment, so students know what's to come at the end of the week. We will have time. The final reflection paper will focus on each individual student's views of the meanings of freedom and how the unit activities have impacted their perspectives, if any at all. And so students will finish up their final draft of their amnesty letters. I will read over them and then have them postmark and address the envelope so I can mail them off for them. The Freedom Forum will take place on the 3rd day of the week, and students will have a handout to complete about what they heard and what they saw and some reflections that they have about the Freedom Forum. On the 4th day of the 3rd week, we'll have a Socratic seminar, which will link the readings from the literary circles with the reflections from the Freedom Forum and give students the opportunity to discuss and have a rich conversation about what freedom really means as we wrap up the unit and what they've taken away from all of this, which will help them generate some thoughts and ideas, which will get them prepared for their final reflection paper, which will take place the next day. And I also have a rubric and a checklist for students when they are participating in the Socratic seminar, just to make sure that there is an equal amount of voices being heard and everyone gets the chance to participate. And then on the final day, we'll do the final reflection paper, and students will have the entire period to write that reflection. And then we'll debrief as a class and wrap up. And that concludes my unit on freedom. Really excited to get this started with my students. I think they're going to produce some really good things. So I'm really excited. Thank you all for your time. Have a good night.